All right, good morning. Good morning. Let's do a quick sound check. It's been a little while. Been about a week, a little more than a week, but we are back. Back in the stream. Back in the States. How we doing? How's the week been? I've only been loosely watching the markets. Looks like most of the plans we've been posting in the morning, though, have been hidden pretty nicely. So that's good to see. It's good to see, right? Market structure. So let's break it down. Let's actually take a look here. NQ, quite a bit different than what we currently see with ES. Let's take a look at NQ to start here. Definitely within a near-term downtrend. Right, you can see the series of lower highs here starting Thursday, August 22nd. That high is made. You have a lower high, series of lower highs. Yesterday, price retested that area, that 19,700 area. That remains a key area of resistance in the near term here, right through there. So we definitely have a level of interest there up into 19,700. Price yesterday, after testing that area, see the pretty swift sell-off, marks a low right there, right at the right near oh, did I just adjust that level accidentally? I think so. What am I looking at as far as 335? No, I have a level there. 19,335 level of interest. You see the bounce. And so now we're kind of in a tricky spot here on NQ. Price is trading up against that 550 level of interest. We have an overnight gap higher. However, the challenge is price is still within the prior day's range. And if you look kind of up above here, we have this week's volume point of control. And then essentially this entire structure has its point of control right through here as well. So we know that a lot of volume has traded right through this area. Right? So if you're thinking, all right, well, I want to partake in the bounce, you have to be cognizant of the fact that we have all of that overhead resistance right through there, right through that 19,600 area. A lot of volume is traded through there. And then you also have to be cognizant of the fact that price is within a near-term downtrend. So I'm not going to be jumping headfirst into any positions here, especially off the open here in NQ. I want to see how price responds essentially versus this pre-market high area. That's going to be a solid reference point for this morning. We do have data at 10 a.m. So per usual, likely take it pretty slow here off the open. Let that intraday structure kind of develop and see what we have to work with as the day kind of builds, as the structure kind of builds. Now, taking a look at ES, you definitely have a totally different picture. Totally different picture here on ES. So yesterday, what I had mentioned in the notes, and it panned out pretty nicely, was the fact that we did have that big sell on Wednesday into the close. You have essentially a Wednesday evening open, the start of the Thursday Globex session there, gapping lower into that 55.65 level of interest, which is pretty plain to see here, just looking at this structure, right? A lot of support through here. So buyers step in pretty aggressively. Now, if you're thinking that the structure is breaking down on Wednesday and you're short, you're waking up Thursday morning underwater, right? So typically when one side is kind of trapped, when one side is kind of obviously caught off of sides, you'll tend to see a move like this that is aggressive in the opposite direction. So in this case, shorts are trapped with an overnight gap higher. Price trades up and through that prior day structure point, which it's not that clear here on the hourly, but you can kind of see that lower high right through here where my cursor is. And then the call was for a retest of the near-term range high, which again was posted yesterday morning in the notes. Price test the high. Unsurprisingly, sellers step back in there, and we're back into the 5,600 key level of interest. That's a key daily pivot into the close yesterday. Now, similar story with that overnight session, we've got the gap higher, right? So very similarly, I want to see how price is going to be responding to this pre-market high, to the weekly volume point of control right through here. This is mid-range. Location is not amazing. It is Friday. We do have data at 10 a.m. So a lot of reasons to just be staying patient here. And we got the open right now. So let's see how price opens. Taking a look at NQ. I want to see the 550 reaction as well as the pre-market high. So this is kind of going to be the main watch here off the open. It looks like we have data at 9:45 as well. Thanks, Benny. Yeah, mostly interested in that Michigan consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. So let's see, couple of landmines to watch out here for. So there's NQ into that pre-market high. And if we take a look at our 5-minute regular trading hours chart, just kind of gapping into prior intraday support, right? Let's see how this gap is treated, whether or not the gap holds, if there's an attempt to actually close that gap. Now S&P, of course, totally different structure. Smaller gap higher, but holding above that prior day structure point, that right there at 56.25. So buyers are looking to see that 56.25 area defended as an area of support. See how this opening 5-minute bar shapes up. No rush, no rush. You know the drill. We're not in any rush. We're just looking for that A+ trade. That's all we need. One A+ trade. Also worth noting, Monday the market is closed. Can be a little bit slower ahead of a 3-day holiday weekend. So some other things to keep in mind. See how volume is looking around those data prints. See if we get any type of setup. Here's ES pushing pretty nicely versus VWAP. We got the espresso going. Staying patient. Staying patient. NQ coming into VWAP here. VWAP, no alignment with a level. That's what I would prefer to see this morning, considering where price is located on the bigger picture, on that kind of higher time frame structure. So we have that opening 5-minute bar completely closed. Looking pretty good. Looking bullish here on ES. Let's see if that can continue to hold. NQ, different story, right? A little bit of a different story there. So just continuing to watch that 550 level of interest and that pre-market high there on NASDAQ. Data in 10 minutes, 9 minutes. No rush, no rush. Let that structure build out. So all things considered, volume pretty light off the open. Not all that surprising. Like to at least get this first data print behind us. ES trying to break that opening 5-minute bar here. There's S&P with a fresh session high, making a push for that pre-market high. So let's see that reaction in the pre-market high. How's NQ doing? NQ holds session volume point of control and VWAP. Bumping into that 550 level of interest now. Getting most interested in kind of that pre-market high area here on both of these. That overnight high. Data in 6 minutes. First data print of the regular trading hour session in 6 minutes here. Got S&P retesting that pre-market high. NQ just kind of stuck here in this pre-market structure. Look at your 15-minute as well. Data in 5. Patience. S&P definitely with some relative strength, unsurprisingly, given the current comparisons of the intermediate term and near term structures. See that data print in 4 minutes here. So S&P with the push up through that pre-market high. Looking good for buyers. Next area of resistance there is going to be that prior day volume point of control and 5650 level of interest. Still all cashed up. That opening 15-minute bar here on S&P. So it's up and through this week's volume point of control. Now this area, I want to see this area holding. Right through here. Want that pre-market high area to be holding as support now. Location still just mid-range, right? So data in about a minute here. NASDAQ, no push through that overnight high just yet. See what kind of action we get here with data. So it pretty much looks like a nothing burger there with data, right? Not even an uptick in volume. Check out, speaking of volume, wow. Look at that volume. Already a print right at that minimum threshold that I keep. So current action says do less, do less, do less, do less. Let's see. I think we have MCS, Michigan Consumer Sentiment, still at 10 a.m. So that usually brings a little bit more of an audience. Where's NASDAQ at? Okay, NASDAQ testing the highs here. Looks a little better. It's a little bit cleaner. ES fighting for that pre-market high. NQ new highs on the sesh. There's S&P pulling back. So no acceptance above the pre-market high there on the S&P so far. There's your NQ. Likewise, no acceptance up and through. Byproduct of current location. Let that structure build now. We should get more clues about the intraday structure. We've got a significant low already made, right? Being the session low. And now we have a significant high for today's session, given price has pulled back. At least an S&P. NQ, to me, there's just more so like barcode. Not a lot I want to do with this. The bigger print, bigger data print in about 11 minutes. S&P back into that weekly volume point of control there. And then NQ back in a 550 level of interest. Anything compelling for y'all so far? I'm still cash. Chilling. Still cash, nice. Staying patient. Yep. Looks like S&P coming into the session low here. So let's see if we get a retest into that 56.25 area. Remember, that's that prior day structure point, as well as a level of interest. Location is just mid-range though. Remember, mid-range. Best opportunities are near the edge Edge of the range. Cash. Good stuff. So S&P undercut the low there. Prefer to see that 56.25. There we go. NASDAQ looking better here. New high on NASDAQ. S&P, that was a pretty nice bounce with the spring setup. If you caught it, no trade for me there. But a decent spring setup nonetheless, if you're into that. If you are into that. Got data in 6.5 minutes. Good target location for that spring play. Coming into session highs. Also has the benefit of VWAP there, depending on what time frame you're looking at for entry. So we have data in 5. We've got a pretty clear structure here on S&P into 10 a.m. Range between essentially 628 and 643. How's the profile building out? Okay. There's NQ back into that pre-market high. S&P did not make a fresh session high on that push. Definitely can see the tape start to accelerate here as we get closer to data. So look at this location here on NQ. Still bumping into all that volume. Gonna be a tricky spot there. But so far holding pretty nicely off the open as far as buying is concerned. So let's see MCS. Take it from there. Still holding that overnight uptrend, right? S&P still in this kind of critical area here, that pre-market high, weekly volume point of control. "90 seconds until data." You've got NQ, higher low versus session volume point of control, and that pre-market high. Pretty nice 1 minute hammer there. Tape is really dancing now. When you start to see that spread open up, that's how you know data's coming. So NQ, that next upside level to really watch is your prior day volume point of control. It's up into 630. Data here in 5 seconds or so. So be careful. Careful, careful. A little bit of a push there. Coming into that prior day volume point of control now. Don't full port, don't full port. Don't do it. Fairly muted MCS. So let's see how price treats prior day volume point of control here on NQ. Bumping into it now. Right around 629. You can see it on the chart here. It's your 5 minute. We're trying to ride. Take a little more off. Where are we at on S&P? Pretty sleepy here. So best setup here on S&P was definitely that spring or pullback to VWAP, however you want to treat that. I like that one as a spring personally. So here's that true test of NQ. Prior day volume point of control. See if it can break. See if it can break that point, and you can see a push for the prior day high. Remember that 700 is the key area of resistance here in the near term. Don't forget your current structure here. 30-minute chart. Resistance zone right up into 700. All through here. So some sellers versus that prior day volume point of control. No real surprise. Let's see how it kind of develops here. Trying to ride this long. That was the pullback into the pre-market high with that 1 minute hammer. Not an A+ setup, in my opinion, but worth trying. So a little bit of a rejection there versus that prior day volume point of control. As always, I use the regular trading hours prior day volume point of control. There it is. Trail was just grabbed on my long setup. So I'm all out of that one. First trade of the day, as you can see. All right, so where are we now? So got a decent push versus the 550 level of interest. As far as the structure, still in kind of a tricky spot here. Don't know what's going on with that double print on the weekly profile, both those blue lines. But coming into the open, like I had said, we wanted to see reaction at 550 at pre-market high, right, to potentially get a push for that 700. You get the push versus pre-market high, but some sellers are stepping in now versus that prior day volume point of control. This continues to be 700 up into pretty much 650. There's still all resistance, right? So location remains quite tricky. Let's jump over to S&P. Still mid-range, not a lot to update. We're looking at that 5625 and then again the pre-market high. So S&P kind of back into that pre-market high area. Still not in any rush here by any means. The gap higher held, right? And both S&P and NASDAQ are still within that prior day's range. This is still an inside day. Still trading as an inside day. Half an hour into the sesh. So let's see how this pre-market high is treated again on NQ. That overnight high. Let me double check volume right now. Volume is quite light. There's that pre-holiday trading. Definitely going to be a day to call it early. It's pretty typical for that kind of pre-3-day weekend trading. $7 hours left to ruin your 3-day weekend? No, sir. No, sir. No, 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 no. Oh, man. Yeah, true. I think he's in Florida right now. So there's NQ into that pre-market high. Pretty firm rejection of that prior day volume point of control, right? Keep an eye on this 15-minute as well. Keep an eye on how this candle closes. Still cash. Wanted to see a change of character above 700. Yeah, that would be 100% one of the easier scenarios. This action is not great here. So I went with that, as I mentioned, I went with that pre-market high long. Once that 1 minute hammer fully developed there, and we had kind of that intraday structure really shaping up as a series of higher lows, right? So your initial low there at VWAP, okay, holds kind of that pre-market low. It's kind of our first clue. Fresh high is made. No surprise to see a pullback there right into 550. Fresh high is made. You can start to see the theme. This is what I mean when I say let that intraday structure build. And then wait for the signal. Okay, we get a test of session volume point of control. 550 level of interest is right below pre-market high, kind of one of the main reference points I wanted to use for the sesh. And then a pretty strong signal bar, that hammer. It's worth a try into the 10 a.m. print. So that's kind of the idea on that trade. For those that are curious, caught about 40 points. So let's see how pre-market high continues to develop here and how that intraday structure continues to build. Volume continues to taper down, so just keep that in mind. S&P has gotten quite choppy here. Barcode, 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 barcode. So not interested in S&P at the current location. I'll definitely kind of watch action through here. If it trades back down into there, see if there's any buying interest. There's a possibility this could just be a range day, given it is an inside day so far, and price is within the middle of a intermediate term range, right? 15-minute bar closes here in 15 seconds. Let's see NQ. NQ, buyers not stepping in really versus that overnight high. So you've got the session volume point of control just below and then the 550 level of interest. Be worth keeping an eye on. More than likely, though, this is just a better session to be shutting it down early, in my opinion. But we'll stay patient, see how it develops. See how the day builds out. Gotta love that prior day volume point of control. Almost to the exact tick there. Gotta love it. So a little bit of a bid there versus that pre-market high yet again. No break up through that value area high. No break up through 600 just yet. Probably give it another like 20 minutes here. See if we get another setup. Something else to work with. Otherwise, there's a one and done kind of sesh. One and done. And it's largely a byproduct of trade location, big picture location. There's definitely easy spots and hard spots, and I like to trade and be more active in the easy spots and do less in the harder spots. That's why I spent a lot of time on the higher time frame charts. Here we go into 550, into VWAP area. We talked about all that overhead volume on NQ being a challenge for buyers this morning ahead of the open. This is why. This is why. We're in the context of a near-term downtrend with volume overhead. So what does that tell you about long setups? Looks like volume point of control shifted a bit lower here. Now aligning with that 550 level of interest on NASDAQ. Where we're at with S&P. Session volume point of control, VWAP, no level of interest, no reference point really. Mid-range, not super compelling there for me personally. Almost took that long. Which long? At pre-market high? Or you mean right now? There it goes. Context. Context is everything. So NASDAQ into session low now. ES, I'll keep an eye on here into the session low, into that 625 level of interest. 1022. Oh, yeah. Good one to stay out of. Means your ability to read context is definitely improving, so that's good. 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 How are we doing? Mostly cash. Still? Anyone trading? Still with the one play. Still with that one NQ trade. Personally. Still cash. Nice. Cash is a position. Hard for a lot of people to admit and accept, but it's the reality of this game. So NQ, keeping an eye on the 550 here. Let's see. A higher low would be nice if this kind of intraday range so far is going to hold. Near-term downtrend's keeping you out of longs. Good. It should. Like I said, context. Context. It's possible that S&P has set the range for the day. So keep an eye on those edges. Let's kind of see if this is going to be the intraday range. I would have liked to have seen like a little blip down here. Quick recovery. So far did not happen. Kind of a spring setup with the benefit of the level of interest there. Kind of like what we saw earlier. $550 reject. Yeah, let's see. Let's see. Let us see. The 10 a.m. RT play with prior day volume point of control. Really nice. If you're looking for the short, that was a great entry. So NQ, a little bit of that higher low, maybe. Let's see how this area kind of develops here. Like I said, not in any rush whatsoever. There will be better trade locations on the horizon. That's what I'll say. So S&P continues to confirm that thought about the intraday range being set here. Very, very tough spot. Very tough spot here on S&P. Right in the middle of prior day range. Prior day volume point of control overhead. And then when you zoom out, just right in the middle of an intermediate term range. Oh, you can't even see that. Can't even see it. There we go. So how aggressive do you want to be in this area? It's kind of the question. And then NQ, again, near-term resistance right through here. Let's go ahead and rescale this chart. Right, all through here at 700. Mish wanted to see the break and retest. Has not happened. All the volume overhead here. So tough to be long, but on the flip side of that, or in the context of an overnight gap higher with pre-market trending higher as well. So pick your locations very, very carefully. At least that's my read. That's my read on the current action. I'll probably give it like 15 more minutes here and then call it a day. It's just a 40-point day so far. Nothing crazy, but first day back to trading for me in a little more than a week. So I'll take that. So I talked about wanting to see that kind of higher low start to materialize in NQ. There it was. No position personally. The probability of this just being a sideways range day is pretty much increasing here. This being your low, right? And then up through here, the high. Let's take a look at S&P. Yeah, darn, this would have been nice if it gave another spring setup, little blip below, little undercut into the level of interest. That's one of my favorites right there on a range bound day. Those can be really powerful. Anyone grab that higher low on NQ? That was pretty nice there. Passed on it, same. Don't blame you. So you can see the range start to tighten a bit now. How many points are we talking? 11 points. It's kind of tight to be trading that. Unless you have a really, really strong entry. Or if you're going for the true session high. It's more like 17 points there. Because you have to factor in your signal bar is going to be X amount of points. And then if you put a little buffer below the signal bar, so NQ bumping into that session value area high here. Right near that pre-market high as well. Pre-market high there at 573. Coming from session lows. Coming from that value area low. S&P pretty much, for me, untradeable here. Again, like I said, I'll look for some action like down through here. Something like this. Or if price were to break the prior day high later in the morning, maybe an early afternoon trade with sustained action, like a late Friday type of trade, I'd look at that as well. Just kind of thinking ahead a little bit. Pre-market high holding here on NASDAQ. You can see the shift here. Highs marked at 10 a.m. prior day volume point of control. Lower high, right? Lower high right at VWAP. This action probably trapped some people. If you avoided that, good work. Then it rolls over, you test the session low. Then right here, or even right here, you start to get those higher lows. That's what I was talking about. I want to see some higher low develop. It's kind of your first clue. If you're thinking long. Right? So NQ making a push at that prior day volume point of control here. I'm going to keep an eye on this reaction. ES into session highs as well. So this will give us a good clue about whether or not it is actually going to be a range day if this area rejects. The S&P rolling over. Range day. Range day. Range day. All right, that's a wrap for me, folks. Thank you for jumping in. A little bit of a shorter stream today. It's a one and done type of morning. On my end, personally, on NQ, got about 40 points there. 3-day weekend. Don't blow your week today with some slower action. Keep an eye on those edges. And we'll be back to regular live streams starting on Tuesday. Enjoy the long weekend. If you have questions, feel free to shoot me a DM in the Traders Think Tank. We're going to keep the day going in the Traders Think Tank today. So if you want, jump in there. Otherwise, I'll see you on Tuesday. Take care.